I have been in a love-hate relationship with this iPad Pro. I've sold it just to repurchase it a few months later, multiple times, and I am not kidding. I have probably sold this thing at least 4 times at this point. I've went through phases of resenting this, back to loving it, back to resenting it, back to loving it, and it's just been overall an absolute roller coaster with this iPad. Now, I don't know how long you guys have been in the iPad game, but my first iPad was the iPad Air 2nd generation, and I remember I wanted to use this thing for class so bad to take notes on it, but they didn't have an actual stylus yet. So I went on Amazon and I bought those really cheap pin styluses. I don't even know how to explain it, but it just didn't work at all. So when the first generation iPad Pro came out, I bought that thing instantly, bought the Apple Pencil, and I absolutely loved it. The only problem was it wasn't a laptop replacement yet. I still had my laptop and I would bring the iPad to school with me to take notes on that instead of bringing a bunch of binders and all that fun classwork stuff. But then the amazing happened. They released the 3rd generation iPad Pros with the slimmer bezels, the actual useful pencil carrying design. This thing became my only used device for at least like 6 months. This 3rd generation iPad solved every single problem I had with the older generation iPads, whether it be the pencil like I spoke about, having an actual keyboard folio case, and just overall a more clean looking and sleek design. Buying this thing was the best, worst mistake I have ever made, and let me explain why. Let's kick this off with what I don't like about this bad boy, and trust me, this was not easy to come up with a list for. First of all, the price. Now, sure, you're not paying a huge premium for this iPad versus a lot of other Apple products that they charge a huge Apple tax on, but most of the time, you're not buying just the iPad. Well, if you're buying the iPad, you gotta buy the pencil. I mean, what are you, broke? Come on. And if you're gonna buy the pencil, what are you gonna tap on the screen with your grubby fingers? You gotta buy the folio keyboard, that's where it's at. And all in all, you are now breaking $1,000 on something that can't even replace a laptop. And it only gets worse when you factor in the new Magic Keyboard they just came out with that's like $350 on its own. Yeah, you're gonna be breaking $1,000 if you start adding everything to your cart faster than you could say, please subscribe. A lot of the time people see just the iPad price and they say to themselves, it's not badly priced. I mean, it's actually a reasonable pricing by Apple, but just keep in mind that you're not only gonna buy the iPad, you are gonna buy all the accessories because otherwise it just sort of feels incomplete. And that's where they hit you with the Apple tax. It's on those accessories. Now, if you don't know what the Apple tax is, it's the tax, quote unquote, that Apple puts on their products. It's basically the premium that you pay for using an Apple device. It's just that hike up in price that you don't see with any other brands most of the time. Now, if you are more conscious about your spending, you can find a lot of good deals online on eBay or on the Amazon used section. It's like I got this whole thing with the iPad, the pencil, and the folio keyboard, which sure isn't the Magic Keyboard, but it's all right. I got this whole thing for $600, and I think that's an amazing price in my opinion. But the problem is this isn't a cheap device by any means. It's a very expensive niche device. Niche device? I don't know. It's a very expensive niche device that isn't targeted to anyone in specific. In my opinion, this is a device that's tailored for artists. The pen support and everything works so amazing that a lot of people use an app called Procreate and do a lot of digital art on this thing. It's amazing for that. It's also a great device for just consuming entertainment, but Apple doesn't market it as that. Apple markets it as a device for anybody looking for a laptop replacement, which I think just isn't true. But this brings me to the second negative, which I already touched into. Who is this device for? Now, I'm speaking as someone who has been just killed by Apple's marketing and has purchased this thing multiple times at this point, because every time I buy it, I think it really could replace a laptop for me. But it never does. There's always something missing that makes me be like, why don't I just use a MacBook or another laptop? Why do I have to use this, even though it looks amazing, even though it's a beautiful device? It just can't do everything a laptop can do, no matter how much Apple markets it. Now, the gap is closing, yes. With every new iPad OS release that they dish out, the gap is getting smaller and smaller for what this thing is and how close it could be to a laptop replacement, but I just don't think the gap is closed yet. Think about it. The iPad Pro has Pro in the name, and sure, every brand is doing Pro name stuff, but a Pro device should have Pro level apps. Like the MacBook Pro has Logic Pro, Final Cut Pro. Why doesn't the iPad have that yet? But let's cut out the negatives now. Let's go straight to the positives, which I think there's a ton for this device. And let's just start off with how beautiful the screen actually is. This is by far the most I should probably show you the screen. This is by far the most gorgeous display I have ever seen on any tablet, any laptop, anything. And it's an iPad. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just so beautifully made and it's so slim. It just, It's amazing. My favorite thing about this thing is if you're sitting outside and you want to take notes or you want to do something outside, the screen is bright enough that you don't even get hit with the sunlight blocking out your whole screen and having to move to the shade. It just works. The brightness is perfect for outdoor consumption, for indoor consumption. It's just, overall, it's an amazing, amazing screen. By the way, the background I'm using is the macOS wallpaper, and I think it looks stunning on the iPad. So if you want to get a good wallpaper for your iPad, get the macOS background. I love it. Now, if you've never moved past your basic displays like the TN panels or the 1080p displays, you're missing out on how beautiful it could be to look at a display like this. And I'm really overselling it, but I'm not kidding. I have come back to this thing multiple times just because of the screen. It is a pleasure to do anything on this device. Now let's move on to the second positive, and that is the Apple Pencil. This thing changed the game for me. Let's just put it that way. Another big reason why I keep on purchasing this iPad is because of note-taking and using it for school, using it for research, using it for everything. This thing has absolutely changed the game for all of that. If it focuses, I wanna show you it. There we go. So I'm a really visual and hands-on person. As soon as I have an idea for something, or as soon as I have an inspiration to do something, I like to sketch it out. And using a regular laptop, you don't have that capability to just pick up a pen and just start drawing on the screen unless you want to completely destroy the laptop. I mean, that's up to you. But with this device, I can just pick it up, open up the Notes app, grab my Apple Pencil, and just start drawing on the screen for whatever I'm thinking at the time and save it, go back to it later. It just works really well for how I think and how my brain processes the information. And overall, it's amazing for coming up with ideas and creating content and just all that fun stuff. The reason why I kept on repurchasing it though is because of its school capabilities and taking notes during class. So I'm an engineering major, and calculus notes and the differential equation notes, physics notes, chemistry notes, all that stuff has been a blessing to do on the iPad. It's all very written stuff and you have to draw sketches and draw a whole bunch of stuff that doing it on paper or doing it on a laptop is impossible. Doing it on paper is possible, but I lose everything all the time. Basically, having the Apple Pencil and having all my notes digitalized has made me be able to go on any device, log on to Google Drive and have all the notes that I've taken already saved on Google Drive as a PDF, all from this one device. And I think that is amazing. There is absolutely nothing else on the market currently that has the fluidity and the 120 hertz display and everything to make drawing on the iPad such a pleasure and have it in such a slim form factor. Now there is a ton more positives, but I'm not gonna get into it super in depth now because I can make an hour-long video on why I use this thing and how and everything about it, so I'm not gonna bore you with that now. But let's go to the actual main question of this video, and it's, do you really need an iPad Pro? Now, here's my main issue that I keep going back to with this device. If you are looking to replace a laptop or replace a desktop or replace something like that in your life with the iPad Pro, just don't. Save yourself the headache and do not buy it to replace a laptop or replace a computer. It doesn't work. No matter how much they try and push this as a laptop replacement, until it gets the functionality to have the pro level apps that content creators and designers, and I was gonna say artists, but artists already have the pro level apps, this isn't gonna be a replacement for a ton of us. If you're buying this to do file management in any way, having servers set up, having files transfer automatically between a bunch of different sources, just don't. It doesn't have the capability for such robust file system yet. Hopefully it changes in the future, but for now, it just can't cut it. Just please don't get roped into trying this and trying to make it fit in your workflow if you know that it's not. It's just not worth the headache and not worth the effort of going through a whole bunch of third-party apps and workarounds to make something work when you could just buy a laptop that would do it right out of the box. Now, if you are using this as a secondary device, if you're using it to take notes for class or use it to watch YouTube, watch Netflix, watch a bunch of stuff, maybe surf the web, jot notes like typing, or anything that doesn't require specialty software or a very specific workflow that you have on your laptop, I think this is an absolutely amazing device. But this comes down to the point, is a secondary device really worth the $1,000 plus price tag? It depends on you. For me, I found it very useful because sometimes if I'm going on a trip somewhere and I know I'm not doing anything crazy, I will only bring the iPad with me instead of, I dropped the pencil. It's okay, guys. Sometimes I'll bring only the iPad with me instead of bringing my whole laptop, and I think that's great. This thing has so much potential. It just needs Apple to push the app development towards it and get real pro level apps on this device, real monitor support, just make it an actual laptop replacement and stop just trying to market it as one. I think if Apple really wanted to, they can absolutely slaughter the Surface Pro line altogether by just making the iPad Pro more of an actual laptop replacement. Hopefully in the future, Apple, I know I'm gonna be around buying iPad Pros until something changes in my life because I cannot get away from these guys. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving it a like and consider subscribing as it will greatly benefit the channel. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.